toxic masculinity.
All right. Well, I guess that's the show for today. I think we had a lot of good stories. I'm going to take it up from here, and Valeria is going to go to her party because she's obviously very stressed out, texting her friends, "I'm sorry, my evil husband is making me work today." So, meanwhile, we're trying to do a show here, and she's sitting there on her phone texting her friends. All right, she obviously is getting stressed out. You can go, darling. I will read the questions and comments.
Are you sure you can handle it without me?
I don't know. Do you have anything that you took pictures of or anything that we need to cover?
No, I did not see a single super chat
Okay,
today.
perfect. All right,
Don't
no
give
super
him money without me, guys. Thank you.
Don't give him any money without me. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, Valeria, you've been lovely. And, yeah, I'll answer some questions and comments. All right, bye now.
Don't smoke Parmesan cheese.
Don't smoke Parmesan while I'm gone. All right. Yeah, it's funny, actually, that I wasn't able to figure out quite what they were saying, but I hadn't seen that clip. Now that I've seen the whole thing. Hunter Biden, yeah, he's not exactly the clearest person in the world. All right. My timeline still hasn't caught up to all you guys' questions and comments, so just give me a second here. Let's see here. Frank James has written Toxic Masculinity. A crackhead will smoke anything toony. I don't know what that means. Tuny. And while hoping that it's crack. I think you meant white. Something in white. Hoping that it's crack. Right. Yeah. I kind of figured that out. It made sense once I thought about it, right? Like somebody who's addicted to somebody, thinking maybe some of the particles got lost in the carpet, digging through the carpet, trying to find something, finding something that looks vaguely like it, trying to smoke it, and then obviously being disappointed that it's not it. So it took me a second to figure that out, but I figured it out. Let's see here. Frank James says, Valeria, do we mean anything to you? Clearly not. Clearly her friends. She plays this. To me, it doesn't look that fun. It's like a Russian game where you gamble, but they play with pennies, right? So she has all these rolls of pennies. So they don't do it, for real money. But then they do this thing where once they've done a few games of that, they play like the super game and they like bet like a whole dollar. And she'll call me up and tell me about her winnings and stuff. It's pretty funny. I like her friends. Her friends are pretty cool people, so it's okay. She's good. Grown Up Gamer says, Valeria's out, I'm out. That's totally reasonable. Otaku Magnet says, book deals are for money laundering. That's actually possible. I don't know if that's what they're doing, but it's also just a good way to get money. If you are famous, writing a book is a good way to sort of cash in on that fame. I would love to do it, but I'm not that famous. And also, YouTube's got their boot on my neck, so I got to wait until that gets fixed. But I do have a book I want to read. I want to write. I have two books I want to write. One is a novel that is somewhat to do with the political stuff going on in the world. But another one is called White People Are Awesome. And I want to title everything in ways that are super provocative. That's why the title of the book is provocative. The subtitle of the book is All the Things We're Not Allowed to Say. And I want to say things like, England is a dystopian nightmare because of Muslim rapists. Right? I want to say that in my book because that's true. It's true. Homeless people smell bad. There's another thing that I want to write. And a lot of this, like I have one about Asians. Where's my Asian one? Asians have squinty eyes. These are all things you're not really allowed to say in a polite society or, amongst leftists in the world because they'll call you a racist or a misogynist or insensitive or something like that. But every provocative title that I have for a chapter in this book is followed up by a rational explanation as to why that specific sentence or that provocative thing should be able to be talked about in our society. And a lot of it basically boils down to this, which is that when you make things foreboding to talk about in society, what you end up doing is ignoring the problems that that discussion is about, right? It's the same thing I always talk about with the black community and why they're disproportionately poor, and how a lot of that stems from their hatred of white people and their resentment of white people and racism against white people. And that's something we're really kind of been conditioned not to just kind of ignore. But the problem is when you ignore a problem like that, it gets worse, right? And if you're not allowed to say Asians have squinty eyes, which is a thing, it's not a racist thing. Compared to white people, Asians have squinty eyes. That's true. That's not a good thing. That's not a bad thing. It's just a thing, right? But if we're not allowed to talk about that and say that and maybe joke about our differences, then it turns into something that is forbidden. It turns into something that is perceived to be racist, right? If my best friend's Japanese and I say, well, Japanese people have squinty eyes, am I a racist? No, of course I'm not a racist, but that's the perception that people have now, which is awful. We shouldn't have that perception of reality. We should be able to joke about things. You destroy humor. You destroy people's ability to solve problems. There's so much wrong with making speech illegal or against the rules or somehow forbidden in society that we need to fight against this at this point, and that's why I want to write that book. Anyway, so that's something I'm going to maybe write. It's going to be a hell of a lot better than I was on my hands and knees looking for crack, and I smoked a lot of Parmesan cheese. I can tell you the book's going to be better than that. Frank James writes, did you have a good Easter? Well, I did have a good Easter, but not in the traditional sense, because Valeria had to work on Easter, which is funny. She had a job on Easter, so she ended up leaving. We were going to make eggs. We were actually going to do a live stream where we made Easter eggs. I thought that was going to be fun, but she couldn't do it, so we didn't end up even getting any of the supplies. But I ran into Scott Pressler the day before, and I was like, well, you know what? If you want to come on the show and talk about your new projects, what you're doing now, I think what you're doing is awesome. I think you should come on. And he said, yeah, sure. So we set it up. We did the show, and it was just a good time. I really liked the guy. He's a really nice guy. He talked about how he was really bullied severely as a kid, and it made him into a really sort of gentle person and a really kind person to everybody because he doesn't want to treat people like he was treated, which I really respect. And I think he's doing a lot of good work politically. So just getting to know him and talking to him. I mean, I've met him a few times before, but it was a really good. It was a nice day. It was a really nice day. It wasn't quite what I would have expected for Easter, but it was fun. Let's see here, John Butjack. Sorry, I keep saying her name wrong. It makes it sound funny. Let's see. John Butjack writes, white people are awesome, ? Did you half quote Barkley? Oh, is that Charles Barkley? Did Charles Barkley say something like that? I'm unaware. No. I was just trying to think of provocative things to say as titles of the book. And one of the ideas I came up with is to say white people are awesome, because the last chapter of the book is actually white people invented everything, which is the provocative thing about white people I usually say. But it's one of the few things we're not allowed to say that's positive. In fact, I start the book out with a positive thing, which is I say Jews are smart. That's the first thing that I say. But you can't say Jews are smart. Why? Because it sort of implies that maybe other races aren't smart. We're not allowed to talk about race and ethnicity and IQ, and we're not allowed to talk about that kind of stuff, which I think is silly. But so one of the things I say is positive is Jews are smart, which implies a lot of other things that are potentially like hurtful and negative to people. But then the last chapter is white people invented everything, which is true. I mean, almost everything that we use today is invented by a white person, and white people just don't get credit for it because for some reason a lot of people in society want to say white people are evil and must atone for their sins. It's a way of punishing people that never did anything wrong. And another way of saying white people are invented everything that's a little bit more provocative and less, less backed up by statistics and facts and all that kind of stuff, and just more a provocative thing to say is just the general statement, white people are awesome. So that's kind of how I came up with that. Just trying to say something that sounds provocative. And I wanted something to title the book that was a positive thing. But I went through all the titles. I said, I should just name the book one of these titles. And the thing I came up with was white people are awesome. And I really like that because I think that it's a shame that you're not allowed to say something like that and expect not to be perceived as a white supremacist. Like, you have to expect, like, I'm sure that some people are going to read the title of that book and say, oh, this was written by a white supremacist. And that's the fact that people think that, will think that upon looking at the title of this book, to me, is a perfect illustration of what's wrong with this country, and what's wrong with our society today. Which is why I thought it was a perfect title. Right? People will see it, they'll think I'm a racist, and then I'll explain in the book why I titled it that. Which is that the fact that you think I'm a racist is, that's really messed up. Like, there aren't that many white supremacists, and those who are, they probably will say this, yes, but that doesn't mean that the rest of us aren't allowed to say it. I actually was in the elevator yesterday with a woman with a shirt, a black girl, that said blackety black black. That's what her shirt said. That was it. There was no context, nothing. It just said blackety black black. And could you imagine if I had a shirt on and I was walking around? I mean, maybe not me because I don't look that white, but a more white-looking white guy. Conan O'Brien, for instance, was Conan O'Brien could get away with it because he's a comedian, but a white person going around with a shirt that says, whitey white white or something like that, unless people thought he was ridiculing white people, if people thought that it was saying like, I'm white, ha ha ha, or something, people would immediately think that person's racist. I think that's terrible. We assume racism of white people these days. And the truth is, a huge number of black people, a hugely significant number of black people are racist in America today, and almost no white people are. But we always assume racism with white people. It's a huge problem that I would love to fix in America. Let's see here. What else we got? C. Reed said, little Timmy fell in a well. I do not understand that statement at all. I wish I did. Let's see. That was a good interview with Scott, says Color Majewish. Well, thank you so much, Color Majewish. Jewish people are smart. Chapter 1. Let's see here. Scott's a good dude, says Slim. He really is a really nice guy. I mean, he's so nice that if he wasn't a conservative, I would find him a bit annoying because he's like aggressively nice. Like he's weirdly nice. It makes him a little bit odd, but his views and his perspective on life and the things that he's trying to do in the country are so amazing that I think actually the kindness is almost just like it makes it even like more powerful what he's doing. So yeah, more power to Scott. I cannot like that guy enough. He's just like the coolest guy. All right, let's see here. Jeff Beal writes, "This book better not come out before Turth Volume 2. Yeah, I stopped doing those. I wish I would write another one, but the truth is I'm just not talking about the election as much as I used to. I specifically designed that because I expected that I would be talking about the election more than I am. But the concept of the world of Turth is that you change all the names of all the politicians in the world that currently exists so that you can talk about political issues in a way that is fictional without getting censored by YouTube. But it doesn't matter anymore because YouTube has so constricted my channel, my original channel, Mr. Reagan, that I think I'm actually going to start a new channel called Mr. Reagan 2. And I'm just going to post everything from Mr. Reagan on Mr. Reagan 2 as well and in parallel and build that channel up because people can't see my videos anymore. I mean, YouTube has really constricted it. It all depends on what my manager is able to do. I'm going to try to get him to go in behind the scenes and they call it an MCN, right? So like a multi-channel network. I'm going to have to get those guys to go into YouTube and say, hey, look what's going on with this guy's channel. Because the thing is, I'm not really... The fact that I say provocative things, like what I want to title this book and stuff, that's not necessarily a perfect reflection of who I am or what I'm trying to say here. Almost everything that I do and say is motivated by one basic premise, which is that I want to improve the quality of life of all Americans. That's it. I want to improve the quality of life of Americans. And I think the best way to do that, or one of the best ways to do that, is to promote traditional Christian values and then just basic common sense ideas about how to run the country. And so a lot of the stuff that I say that's, in a provocative way is to point us toward ideas that maybe we haven't been thinking about or talking about, but that need to be addressed in order to improve our quality of life. And yes, it sounds provocative sometimes, but a lot of times the reason something's provocative is because people perceive it as something that's racist, even though maybe they shouldn't. They're jumping to a conclusion. And I do like to play on that. I do like to play on people's expectations of misogyny or racism, these kinds of stupid ideas, and just point out how ridiculous they are, by saying things that may be provocative. Like sometimes I do talk about how, I'm going to beat my wife or something like that, right? But the reason I talk about that is because that's a thing that is expected of us by the left, or about how conservatives we just hate the blacks, Like, to me, those things are funny. Those things are funny presumptions the left has about the right that are absurd, and they actually kind of damage our ability to communicate and to work through ideas and to talk through things. Let's see. C. Reed writes, "What's that, Lassie?" ? There was a guy named New User the other day who kept on writing nonsensical things in my super chats, and now this guy's doing it, and I'm wondering if it's the same person. He's got a picture of Kim Jong Un on his profile there, and I'm thinking, or is it Kim Jong Il? Who's the new guy? I always get him and his dad confused. I'm wondering if it's really him. Is that you, Kim? Are you trolling me, Kim? All right, here. Nathaniel writes, "Missed your show all last week. My MacBook broke and cost $750 to fix, so I didn't have any money to give you, but I got my stimulus check, so here's $5. I love this guy. That's amazing. John But Jack writes, "Instead of Reagan 2, you should go with Mr. Mondale." No. Let's see here. Jeff Beal writes, "I don't know if jumping to another channel will work. I think the algorithm links your videos and restricts them both. Seen other creators try it, and it's never worked that I've seen." Okay, well, I will obviously research it before I do it. That was kind of the initial plan that I'd had, but you make a good point. Somebody I know just wrote me, and I'm curious what he just sent a link. I was thinking maybe he was watching the show and he didn't want to comment in the comment section, so he commented to me directly. It says, this is from Daily Cost. It says, "Explosive revelations just blew up sociopath Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' golden boy image." I highly doubt that, but I will read the article. If you are watching, thank you for sending me this. I will not say who that is because it is a relative of mine. Anyway. Yes, I am no longer the crazy leader. I got to pay more attention to this guy. He's a funny guy, but a bit odd. Let's see here. Jesus is God says she shares these videos. Well, thank you so much. The Ishtar thing. Somebody wants me to mention the Ishtar thing. I was actually going to do a whole segment on the Easter thing, but Valeria was like, we can't let this show go too long because I got to run off to my thing. But I did a bunch of research into the Ishtar thing, and I would like to say this. The whole concept, I don't even know why people are calling it Ishtar, because the concept that Easter is somehow a pagan holiday that Christians adopted, or some people in Europe adopted, or are trying somehow to make Easter somehow like a crypto heretical holiday. It's all absurd. It's all ridiculous. It's all wrong. The word Easter comes from a German word meaning dawn. Right, like you rose again, dawn. And in fact, in most European countries, it's like Pascha or something like that, which is like the word for Passover. But the reason that it comes from the word dawn, why people think that it's this god Oyster or something, or whatever the god's name is, this pagan god, is because the Germans got their word for dawn from that god, or that god was named after the dawn, that this sort of pagan god was named after the word dawn. Somehow those words are connected in German. So because they were trying to make the word in German for the day that Jesus rose from the grave, come from this word dawn, people misinterpreted that as this word coming from this pagan god, but it doesn't. And none of the other Easter traditions are from pagan sources. But you know what? I will do it. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Maybe I'll go into an in-depth research about this tomorrow. I should probably end the video here, but hold on. I got another text. It's another article. Wow, Chuck Todd just called out the Republican failure on the infrastructure bill. Why does he keep sending me daily costs? See, the problem with a lot of these, like he sent me a political fact thing, a politifact thing that says the autopsy does not say that George Floyd died of an overdose. See, unfortunately, a lot of these sites that, people will send me, and this is a relative of mine, that are, they have left-wing points, is that they're not reliable sources. They're actually really unreliable. Like Political Fact says, no, autopsy does not say George Floyd died of an overdose. Yeah, it does, actually. It totally does say it does. And it doesn't even say that it's like half true or something. It's just false, which is not true. The autopsy did say he died of an overdose. All right, let's see here. Andrew Jensen writes, make my work pronouns thee, thou. Thoughts? I always joke that my pronouns are like your majesty or your highness. Or your worship or something like that, right? Thee, thou. Maybe we should go back to that generally in society instead of saying the or you. I guess it's you, right? One thing that's interesting, by the way, of I don't know if you guys know, this is an interesting fact, completely random, nothing to do with politics, but you know how they have these signs from like old-timey taverns from like the Middle Ages, and it always says like ye olde shop a or something, like, right? Like the word old has an e at the end, and the word the is ye. One thing that's interesting about that is that old typesetters didn't have a printing block for a letter that we used to have in the English language called thorn. And the language, the letter for thorn, they just used the letter Y because it kind of vaguely resembled the letter thorn. But the letter thorn was the TH sound. That was the TH sound. And so when you read YE in old texts, that's actually the word the. It's the word the, just like we say the word the, except instead of a thorn, they would use a Y. And so we read it today as ye. So all the stuff in the King James version of the Bible, it doesn't say ye, it says thee, but we read it as ye a lot of times because they replace the thorn letter with the Y, and so now that's an interesting point of fact of history of interesting things about the world. All right, let's hear. Jeff Beal writes, how hard did you gave palm seeing LeBron James star in the new? Oh, did you face palm? I think he's starting to say face palm. Probably writing on the phone and it changed the word. In the new Space Jams movie. Look, I'm not really a big fan of sports anyway. When I was a kid, I was into basketball. I played a lot of basketball. I watched basketball. I was impressed with Michael Jordan. The thing about Michael Jordan was that he was actually kind of a charismatic person. So you could kind of maybe put him in a movie and he would have enough charisma to carry the film. I don't think LeBron James has any kind of charisma. And now maybe that's just me because I don't like sports and I don't really watch LeBron James that much, even in interviews, but I just don't see that working. I obviously didn't see the film. Maybe I will, but I doubt it. I doubt I'm going to see Space Jam 2. I never actually watched Space Jam 1, I should have. It came out when I was a kid. But I never saw it. Let's see here. Frank James says, that's not what the other lawyer said. I don't understand that joke. I assume it's a joke, but... All right, so, guys, I think we are good. I think I'm going to call it a day, and we're going to get into this stuff more tomorrow. And I'll try to go through and I'll find a good article about the Easter stuff, and I can read you guys some of that stuff. But yeah, Easter is, in fact, a solidly Christian holiday. You should be proud of it. You should celebrate it. And you shouldn't call it something other than Easter. Easter's a perfectly fine thing to call it. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Good night. Toxic masculinity.